Hello and welcome to episode 23 of the Knit Sip Happy podcast. My name is Nancy and I'm coming to you from Moncton, New Brunswick on the east coast of Canada. You can find me everywhere, will be linked below. I'll also put it on the screen. I'm Knit Sip Happy everywhere on Instagram, Ravelry, Facebook, and I have an email address linked below as well. Welcome back to my backyard. I'm going to insert a little video here of what the skies are looking like out there. I'm hoping that it is going to be okay to podcast out here. It's a little breezy and these big ugly gray clouds keep kind of coming by, but they're not forecasting any rain this afternoon, so we're going to give it a whirl. So you'll have seen a little beach footage at the beginning just because I was at my favorite Bouctouche dunes. We had company from Calgary. My daughter's future in-laws were visiting and they were here last weekend, so we had to go out to the dunes. So I took some footage out there of water and a cute little furry caterpillar, and just, it was a lovely Sunday morning. Okay, let's get into the nitty goodness. Let's have a little chat. It is red today. I thought with the cloud and the gloom, maybe I'd go red. I may regret that decision. This is a delightful Cabernet Merlot from California, and I've just said delightful, and I'm not going to do that anymore this episode. When I was editing the last episode, I realized I said that with awful frequency. So I'm going to try and use different superlatives through this episode. Yummy, that'll work. So I am wearing today, I don't have a new garment to show you, and that's a first for the last few episodes. I've had a new garment to show you, I think, most of the summer. My knitting has gone off in different directions. I do have a garment finish, but it is not here. It is with my daughter in Fredericton. So today I pulled out one of my favorites. This is my teaser from Jill Carina. I test knit this, I believe, in 2022, last year, I think so. And this is in fingering weight silken linen from Yarn Indulgences. I shortened the yoke on this one. It offers you a longer lace section. I'll have the project page linked below if you'd like any details and more pictures, because I'm going to try also not to stand up today and have to move things around because it's noisy out here on the deck. Okay. Let's jump into FOs. I have a few. We may as well start with the reef tank that I finished for my daughter. I'll insert some pictures up here of her wearing it. I gifted it to her 2 weekends ago when she was up picking up her future in-laws from the airport. She stopped by with young Archie, who we looked after for a few days. And yeah, it's a good fit. I have to say that I did do a gauge swatch. I think I'd mentioned last time I knit the size 4, which should have been a 37-inch bust to give her some positive ease. I did not get that positive ease. My gauge changed during the garment. My swatch came up that I was going to get the 37 inches, but I ended up getting closer to 34.5, 35. So she tried it on the Friday, and it was a little snugger than she wanted. So I took it back from her before she left. She was going away for the weekend. I took it back from her and I reblocked it and gave it a little more of a horizontal stretch to give her the ease that she wanted, and kind of instructed her on how to do that at home to make sure she's getting that fit. But after that blocking is when we took those pictures, and I think it looks really great on her. She seems to be pleased with it, and I hope she gets lots of wear out of it. I still have one ball left of the tin Lena that I used, and you can see it's attached to something, and we'll talk about that a little later. So that's the only finished excuse me, garment that I have. I do have, let's start with things that you had seen before. The shift cowl. I have mattress stitched up the back. I blocked it, wove in the ends, and did the mattress stitch up the back. So just a quick refresher on this one. I've been working on this for a while. I'll put it on. This was an I've adapted this cowl a little bit. This was inspired by Sue and Tara at Knit City Montreal, who were looking, Sue was looking at options for the shift cowl that wasn't spin cycle to make a more budget-friendly gift item for some of her loved ones. So she had picked some marl, sock marl, and then some fingering weight yarn combos, and Deborah and I at the booth thought that would be an amazing sample, so we picked out a comp size. The details will be in my project page. That's the only modification that I made. I didn't change the stitch count, I didn't change the number of repeats in the pattern. The only thing that I did do was I only had 2 colors, so basically I just switched, flip-flopped the colors, what was the background, what was the foreground, all the way through this cowl. And I'm really pleased with the result. Yeah, it's got that, it's a nice squishy, I'm really pleased with this. I would definitely do this again. This is going with Deborah. She is leaving for Ontario on Thursday to go to the yarn show Fiber Spirit in Barrie, Ontario. So if you're in Barrie, Ontario, I'm planning to go to Fiber Spirit, or anywhere in Southern Ontario, I'm planning to go to that show. This will be hanging in Deborah's booth as well as a couple of other samples. I will not be there. I will be working my last work day before we leave for England and Scotland for vacation. So sadly, I will not be at that yarn show, but I'm sure it will be lovely. So shift cowl, is there anything else I wanted to tell you? I said this has been on the needle since May because I found the mosaic was, the slip stitches was giving me some hand wrist pain. So I was just doing it in shorter sessions. But thrilled that's done and blocked, and that will get delivered to Deborah this week so she can pack it up and take it with her. And the sun's coming out, so I might get a little squinty. I apologize. The other cowl that I finished is the Every Which Way cowl. I had showed you this last time as well. I had started this. I was just looking for a bit of a color work fix without committing to a color work sweater because of various reasons. The increases, and then I went to do it. I was going to do some increases in these center 2 rows and realized if I did that, I was going to throw the pattern off completely, and I didn't have the brain power to change the stitch number in the chevrons, and so I didn't bother. What I did do was, this is the top, I did the ribbing, I changed needle size. I went down a needle size, so it is slightly smaller up here at the top than it is at the bottom. But not much. If you, I had posted on Instagram earlier this week and showed the floats because I was really happy with the way the inside looked as well. So I'll just show you that. I'll flash you my floats. So this was using some Deep Stash DK and in the light green, the main color, and the contrast color was some of my hand spun in a Super Rush Merino nylon. And this is one of the hand spuns I had helped Deborah, or she helped me hand dye the fiber, and then I spun it and I've knit with it. So this is going to England as a gift for one of my lovely aunts who are putting us up for several days. We're staying with we're staying with 3 of my aunts in different parts of the country. So this is going to my lovely aunt in Scotland because I figured this nice squishy would be lovely for her. So that's finished object number 2. Oh, back to the shift cowl really briefly. I weighed my leftover yarns. I have 40 grams left of the coral semi-tonal, and the sock marl Pamela I have 47 grams left. So I have purchased the pressed flowers hat, and I'm going to make the pressed flowers hat out of the leftovers from this cowl. And it's a sport weight pattern. I'm converting it to fingering. I was looking at some project pages and it looks like it fits quite big. So I'm just going to go down a needle size just like I did with this one. I'll keep the stitch count the same, the size the same, and we'll see how it comes out. Again, it's a sample, so I'm not worried about it too much, but it'll be good to kind of get an idea of fit, that if I want to do this in the future using 2 different fingering weights, I just have more fingering weight leftovers in my stash than I have sport weight. Yeah, So just weights on that. So that means 47, I used 53 grams of the marl and 60 of the tonal semi-solid. All right, I should look at my notes, then I wouldn't have to. All right, just lay these things down flat because they're nice and blocked and I don't want to have to reblock them. The only other finished objects are socks. So a quick pair, another pair I don't have, I'll put a picture in here. The Afterthought socks I was working on last time from the sock tube. They were going to be a Christmas present for a staff member, and I changed my mind on that. When we go to the classic car shows, there is a gentleman who walks by and we always chit chat, and he talks to my husband about cars, trucks, whatever, because that's what they do. And he always comments on my knitting. And whenever I'm knitting socks, he always asks if they're for him. So I realized after the last podcast, we were getting ready to go to a car show the first weekend of August. It was a holiday weekend here. And I think in most parts of Canada it is, but it was New Brunswick Day on Monday, August. The first Monday of August. And I thought, you know what would be hilarious? If I was just sitting there knitting away and he came up and says, "Oh, are those for me?" And I said, "No, but these are." So that's what I did. So those sock tube socks I finished up. I just kind of punted on his foot size, and I said I'll put a picture in here. They were just using the Regia, Arnie and Carlos colorway that I may have linked below. I have a project page, and I used some light gray from my stash and just made a nice pair of vanilla Afterthought socks. So as predicted, he came over and was chatting with Brad, and then he commented what I was knitting, and then he asked where his socks were. And I pulled them out of the bag and he was shocked. So I don't even know this man's name, but he was happy. You know, he'll never have to ask me again because he's already got a pair, and I just thought it'd be a kind of fun thing to do. So they went to him and that was kind of fun. So another thing I have no pictures of. And then I can't remember if I'd started these last time. I didn't. Oh, hang on. I have my notes. I can check. No. No, I don't think I had. So I was talking about the way I was feeling about working with, you know, these bigger scrap yarns in my stash. You know, the 40s, the 35 to 45 grams that you have left over from socks. Sorry, I hope you can't hear that too much. A loud motorcycle going past. But I finished. These are a pair of By the Shore socks, which is a pattern by me, using Knit Picks Stroll in the colorway Yeti, which is a main color, and I just used some black stash yarn to do the toes and heels. So they're still a little damp. I finished them last night and got them blocking, and it was, anyway, damp and muggy, and they just didn't dry. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through this. In order to use up all of the yarn, because I only had 48 grams of this, I divided each ball into, or the main ball into two. I weighed it. So I obviously could have done a few more rounds, but I didn't want to play yarn chicken, and I didn't want to use black for the cuff. I just wanted to finish off. So I do have these left, and it'll go in a scrappy blanket for a square or something. So I divided them in two, and I knit them separately, but I knit them toe up. So my By the Shore pattern is cuff down. It's a feather and fan. And all that did was just rotate the feather and fan pattern. The waves are just going the other direction. So if you do them cuff down, the waves look like smiles, and these look more like umbrellas. So it still looks like a wave. It's still By the Shore, but done toe up. So I followed my rounded toe that's in my Wintry Woods and Dune Grass socks pattern. I worked up the foot, and this is a Fish Lips Kiss heel. I wanted to do something different than the afterthought with the gusset, but I made this deeper. So what I did when I got to the last row here, when I was getting ready to put the heel in, I increased 4 stitches on the back needle. So I increased 4 stitches on this row on the back needle, so that gave me 4 extra stitches for my heel, which it's a short row heel, so it ends up being 2 extra repeats of your double stitches. So it makes the heel deeper. You can kind of see that it's definitely longer and deeper than a traditional Fish Lips Kiss heel. Worked over 32 stitches. So this was worked over 36 stitches. My blocker keeps trying to slide off my lap. Okay, so, and then when I finished doing the Fish Lips Kiss heel at 36 stitches, then the last pass of the black contrast yarn, I did a knit 2 together 4 times, spread out over that back row to bring me back to 32 stitches. And that's it. That's all I did to adjust this to give me a bigger heel. I have no idea who these are for. They will go into my Christmas pile. They are about a lady 7.5 on a 64 stitch. So I'm going to put these back on the blocker, like I said, because they are not dry. And boys, oh boys, it's really clouded over again. So if there's a lot of changes in the color and the lighting, that's the explanation. It's cloudy, sunny, cloudy, sunny, cloudy, sunny. So that pair is done. And then Deborah reminded me, she dropped off. Deborah from Yarn Indulgences is bringing in a new sock base. She's called it her Splendid sock. Where's the yarn? And I had asked, we had talked. I don't think she'd even asked. I think I'd offered. Hang on, I'm attached. There we go. I'd offered to knit her some sample socks to take for her shows that are coming up, to show how the yarn knits up and how it feels when it's knit up the fabric and the gauge and after it's blocked and all of that. And then promptly forgot that I said I was going to do that. So Deborah dropped off the yarn to me, and I thought, oh wow, great, something to play with. And we just happened to be talking one day, and she was talking about the new sock yarn and the show, and I was like, oh right. I said, I'll get those samples done for you right away. I don't know if I admitted I'd forgotten. She dropped me off 2 colors with no tags or names. So this is this nice kind of sea foamy, greeny blue, very similar to this kind of color. And then this one is blues and teals and light mauvey purple colors. So this new yarn base, I don't, like I said, this didn't come with tags. I'm pretty sure it's 75/25. I know it's 463 yards, so great yardage on this. And it is so soft and squishy and was really, really lovely to work with. So this is what I have left. I've just knit 1 sock out of each color, just for sample. The good news is that leaves me enough yarn to knit 2 socks for myself out of each ball. I haven't weighed this, but generally out of a 100-gram skein, I can get 3 socks comfortably. I do that a lot for my design socks. I'll knit 3, and then I've got either a pair to wear or a pair to gift, and I just got 1 to be able to use as a sample for pictures or whatnot for marketing in the future. So this is the yarns that I've used. I'm going to show you the socks that I knit. These are also on blockers and not quite dry. So the first one I knit was in the bluey color, and I used my ravishing sock pattern. So it's got a really fun twisted rib cuff and a twisted rib detail. It's not cables, it's a bit of a lace, but super easy and intuitive to do. So this was worked cuff down, into a heel flapping gusset, down the foot with a rounded toe. And the stitch definition in this new base, I love it. Love it, love it. And we also have, hard to see, hang on a second, a little twisted rib panel up the back of this sock. So this will be going to Ontario once I get it dry. Hopefully I can drop it off to Deborah tomorrow. I've got to go in town tomorrow. Tomorrow's Monday. Today is Sunday, August 20th, the day I'm recording. And it is the last week before we're heading to England, so I've got a lot of errands and things to do tomorrow. Figure out what to buy for groceries. We just need enough to get us through for 5 days and try to leave the fridge as empty as possible. I digress. Ravishing sock. Done in the new Splendid sock base. This base is not yet available. It will be going into Deborah's online shop, I believe, in September, but she does have a lot of shows coming up. But it will definitely be at Fiber Spirit in Barrie this week, August 26th, Saturday, August 26th. And then I had to do, once I realized I was only going to do one sock, I thought, well, I'm just going to whip up another one in the green. And this is what it looks like. So you can see it's got those kind of green, blue hints to it. And this one I use the my smoke gets in your eyes pattern. Same thing, work down, heel flap and gusset to a rounded toe. Just a nice texture to show off that really great stitch definition. And I love the contrast of the back being in plain stockinette and the front being in the texture. So kind of fun, only having to knit one sock. And yeah, so, and I did something different. Okay, so can you see this heel pickup? I'm sure lots of you, if you're a sock knitter, had seen on Instagram, there was a reel by Jackie Vanderbeek. I'll put it on the screen and I will link it below. There was an Instagram reel of her showing picking up the heel flap stitches purlwise and purling them to give you this really, ooh, it's raining. Okay, we're gonna keep going as long as it doesn't get too noisy and as long as I don't start getting wet. I'm in my screen room, so generally I'm okay, but if it starts blowing me from the back, I will pause and come back to you. So stay tuned. Yes, that's what I did. I picked up the heel flap stitches purlwise and then purled them, and that gives you this really, it's actually easier to see on this side, this really nice, neat row of stitches. I think it looks better on that side than this side, but that's pretty typical of most socks. So that's not written in the pattern. That was just something I saw on Instagram and wanted to try. I like it. I like it. I think I had to do it twice because I watched the video incorrectly the first time. There's no written instructions or anything. It's just a video of her showing how she does it. So I screwed up the first time and had to kind of come back and try again. But yeah, quite easy to do. And I don't know that it's much neater than my regular pickup. I usually don't have a problem picking up heel stitches. And I don't know if I would do it regularly because I knit a lot of socks and I find them on autopilot a lot of times. So I have a feeling I would probably forget to do it. But these two are on blockers, getting dry, ready to go to Ontario. And those are all of my FOs. Still picking with rain. I'm not sure if you can hear that. Cheers. It's a pretty rainy day for a day that they weren't forecasting any rain. Okay, whips. Whips, whips, whips. Ooh, here comes the wind. I'm gonna keep going. I'm not getting wet yet. You're not getting wet yet, so I think we'll just carry on. Whips, whips, whips. I don't know if I worked on these very much. I think I might have put a few rounds in. I can't remember where I was. These are the Mind the Gap sock base, and I was just doing a slip stitch when the stripe changed. I've been taking these out to car shows and out and about knitting. Dropping stitches. This is on a 9-inch circular. I already have one done. These are going to be shorties for Sam. I just need to pick a color and put a heel in. At this point, I don't think that's going to happen before I go away on the weekend. I've got other things I want to do, but these are just an easy out. They are an out and about, but they're getting close to being done. So I had to go out and about. So I ended up starting a new project because I was worried I was going to run out of, you can kind of see I've only got, what, 5 more stripes before the ribbing, and I can easily do that in an hour of just sitting, chatting with friends, doing just a vanilla around and around. So I ended up, we were going out for lunch with friends, so I looked at this and thought, I don't want to take 2 things, so I cast on something else quickly. Let me find it. Here we go. So I was digging in my stash for something that was already caked up, either that I'd already caked up and not used for a project or something else, and I found this Knit Picks Stroll Gradient in my stash. Obviously it's already caked up, I didn't need to do anything, and I cast on an East Coast cowl. This is a pattern by Yarn Indulgences that she had put out last month? Late July, early August. So it's a bandana style cowl that is knit. There's no purling. So there's parts of it knit flat, then parts of it knit in the round, and parts of it knit flat. So you can see it's transitioning. So the first color that you couldn't see in that tonal was the blue, and then we transitioned into kind of a greeny blue, and then we're going more into like a yellowy green, and then it will transition into the gray. I decided to do it this way because I thought, always Beach House. I don't know if they still offer this. This is quite a deep stash for me. But I figured I'd rather start with the blue, and if I don't use all the gray, it would be great for heels, toes, and cuffs for other projects, or just, yeah, heels, toes, and cuffs, because it is a 75-25 superwash merino nylon, so it is a sock base. So I took this out. We went out for lunch with friends on the holiday Monday, and I just needed something really simple, and this was the ticket. So I'll put a picture in here, or I will have put a picture in here of what it looks like on a flat lay, and possibly me wearing one. I think I have that as well. I knit a few of these. Again, because there's no purling, and they're kind of a nice mindless, easy thing to work on while you're chatting with friends. So that was what I cast on instead of taking stripy socks when I went out. And my notebook keeps blowing in the wind and I'm losing my page. Let's stay with the small projects. I showed you this sock last time, and I was just in the foot portion. Ipsitas, I still don't know how to say it. It is from 52 Weeks of Socks, Volume 2. I'm just going to steal a blocker because I do have one finished, and I haven't blocked it yet because I'm working on number 2. So, this is using Handspun, my hot pink Handspun, and then I had pulled these two, again, part skeins out of my stash to work from, and I was pondering whether I was going to reverse it and do this for the foot and this for the contrast on the second sock, because that's what they've done in the book, and I decided not to. I weighed my fuchsia and decided I had enough to start the fuchsia and make that the main color on both socks. And I wanted to use up more of my Handspun. So this is finished sock number 1. As I said, it's unblocked. Just has an interesting story on the foot, and I'll talk to you about that more in a second. It's worked toe up with a gusset, German short row, heel turn, heel flap, and then into this fun leg that is mosaic and increases and decreases to make these fun fan-shaped, or they look to me like peacock tails or little trees, or it was quite fun to do. It's not quite, it could do to be blocked out just a little bit, but then anyway. So this is the way it looks in my blocker. I haven't blocked this yet, but really fun. So I had put this pair of socks down or this sock down for quite a while I was finishing up dune grass and running through the test on the dune grass socks. And when I got back to it, I opened up the book, thought I knew what I was doing, didn't look at the instructions because it was just kind of a slip stitch rib thing up the foot. I'm just going to put this sock back on this blocker for it to keep drying. And knit, I don't know if you'll be able to see. So I was working on it. And there's a distinct tension change right here. You can see those slip stitches have gotten quite a bit bigger and it feels a lot looser. This felt quite snug. And I thought, wow, my tension must have been, I must have been really, you know, a little, when I cast on and was doing this for whatever reason. No, that's not the case. These were the bottom, they're supposed to be knit through the back, these are knit through the back loop, these are not knit through the back loop, they're just knit. So that would explain the difference in the tension. I decided on the second sock that I would just keep going. I actually liked it a little bit looser, so I did not twist them here either. I've just done straight knit on that second round. So, got wine? Yes, I do. Weather report, the rain has stopped. It's still cloudy. It's getting quite muggy because it's raining. So I might be a little shiny. So yeah, this is sock number 2. Again, this may or may not get finished this week. There's not a whole lot of work to do because I did decide to do them as shorties. We'll see how my week goes. Because I was pretty sock heavy last week and small project heavy. I've got some things I haven't touched. This is one of them, but it's not inspiring me necessarily right now. So I will probably wait until I get back and get back to it. Oh, I did bring back to the socks I gave to the guy at the car show. I still have the yarns and I ended up just using 1/2 of the tube. So this is the yarn. I forgot I had it out here. Sorry about that. So these are ready. These will now become the gift socks for my employee who loves socks at Christmas. And I have the gray, the dove gray to go with it. So I'll do heels, toes, and cuffs. Regia design line, Arnie and Carlos. That's the details. It may or may not be on my project page where this was a tube that was cranked for me with my friend Leanne. That's the details. I find that these Regias, I pick them up as I see them. I think this one I got off of D-Stash. I don't really, I'm not really looking at the colors per se. I tend to like to go for manly or more gender neutral colors that I can do for the men in my life with these. So this may or may not happen this week. It's not technically a whip, but it could be. There's needles in the bag. Does that make it a whip? And I think the last whip, nope, second last whip, is using this cone of Holst Coast. I was talking to you about this last time as whether I was going to swatch or not. I did. Do I have my swatch in here? That's a very good question. Or had I swatched, but I needed to go down in needle size? I think that's what it was. So I had swatched on the recommended needle size. It's a little too big, a little too gappy for me, so I just went down a size. I did not re-swatch. That's what it is. I was pondering re-swatching. I did not re-swatch. So this is Hint of Summer by Isabel Kramer. It'll be up one side or the other, whichever one has more space. I'm feeling that one because it's dark. And I've been pointing this side the whole way. All right, I was just looking at the times. I feel like I'm really rattling through this, but maybe I'm not. I feel I have to-do lists everywhere right now. When you're going away for 2 weeks and I gotta leave, anyway. we'll chat later. So this is Isabell Kraemer Hint of Summer. This is where I have gotten to so far. It's a nice V-neck. It's a drop shoulder, and you can see how thin and see-through this fabric is. Holst is one of those yarns that really blooms in the blocking. So I had mentioned last time I was going to be doing a whole lot of modifications to this because drop shoulder generally is not something I like, but Anina from Annie UT Knits, Tankar Tea, and Lotus Lake Tea had this ingenious decrease underneath the arms of a drop shoulder design. So I decided to take that technique and employ it here. So you can see, yeah, you can. Oh, I'm just going to put this bag down because it's trying to fall off my lap. Get a little more yarn. Okay, so I split for the sleeves and then did a series of decreases. You can see underneath the armpit there. To bring me down, I did a little math. I can't remember what that math was, just based on the ease and what I was trying to get for my final bust measurement. So I've done it on both sides. And then I put it down because I ended up doing smaller, quicker things and didn't get back to it. So I'd like to knit another couple of inches on this and then try it on, just to see how it fits and feels. The one thing with this yarn, when it blooms a lot, I find it shrinks both width and lengthwise quite a bit. So I'm going to have to knit this quite a bit longer than I expect to. So I know I've knit things with Holst before, and I've had to put the needles in, rip out the ribbing, and do another 3 inches or so to get to the length that I want. Like I said, I had this cone in my stash. I really like this color. And it's going to be a 3/4 length sleeve, I do believe. You could, yeah, I think I'm going to do it 3/4 length to make it a kind of a transitional piece. I could put a tank top underneath it for a cooler summer day or even into spring and fall. So that is on my needles as well. None of these things are coming with me to England. And we're going to talk about trip knitting in a little bit. Oh no, I actually have that next on my list. I'm sorry if I'm a little scattered today. I have lists and notes and travel knitting plans. So there's going to be 3 different kind of distinct knitting for me at this point. Airplane, airport, need distraction, can follow a pattern. And it can be bigger than a sock. There's going to be straight vanilla, out and about, just need something to do with my hands that can go in my little crossbody bag. Vanilla, plain, might even be tube socks, and then put heels and toes in later. Depends where I'm at when the heel needs to go in. And then third is going to be pattern socks. Need a smaller project, but I can focus on it a little bit more. So that I've kind of divided my needs and desires into 3 categories. So what I'm looking at is, I've got some bundles here. I went into my self-striping stash because, as I've talked before, vanilla socks are not my favorite thing to do because I get bored. But with fun stripes, I thought the striping definitely keeps me more interested, especially with these. They're irregular stripes. So these are both from Turtle Pearl, who is a local to me dyer, and I have placed an order with her, not for me. So this is All Sorts of Fun, and it's a Licorice All Sorts inspired color. So I thought that would be fun to be working out and about in England, because they're an English sweetie. And Sweet Pea, which looks like this. And my daughter's nickname is Sweet Pea, and my favorite flower in the summer is Sweet Pea. I love the smell, and I've grown none of them this year. However, so I thought these come in 2 50-gram skeins. So I'm going to wind these up, and then I just have to decide. Sweet pea is fundamentally for my daughter, but I would love a pair of shorties. So I don't know. I was kind of thinking just use 50 grams for her, 50 grams for me, but I think I will knit her a full pair, and then whatever's left I'll just put into a pair of shorties for me. I'm going to need a contrast anyway because I don't like to do a heel flap and gusset. I don't like to break up the striping. So I'm going to be doing a contrast color in that, and the black has to happen for that one. These are probably for me. My mum would also probably get a big kick out of these, so I'll see. But these are designed for matching socks, 2 skeins. I'm going to cake these up. They're going with me for sure for out and about knitting, because I'll only have a 50-gram skein in my little crossbody bag on a 9-inch circular, so it doesn't take up a lot of room. Hummingbirds squabbling. My hummingbirds are so territorial. They love to come up on the deck and feed, but if there's more than one of them up here, they sit here and hover and argue with each other and scrap. I don't know if you heard that, but that's what that was. It was hummingbirds having an argument. Striping vanilla socks. I didn't bring, I'm going to find something else in my stash that I can use for patterned socks. I don't know yet. I didn't get that far. This kind of seduced me. And then I went off on a tangent. I was thinking about the Every Which Way. No, not Every Which Way. My notes have blown again. Hang on. The Simple Thing. Here, this side dance. I'll put a picture in. It's I've done a couple of these already. It's a DK weight, I-cord edged, shawly, scarfy thing. And I thought that'd be great for airplane knitting, as an option for airplane knitting, and even evening sitting around chatting knitting, because it's not too difficult to keep track of things. I kind of went through, my first thought was hand spun. So I grabbed, and it's a DK weight pattern. So I grabbed a couple or 3 things out of my hand spun. This is 230 grams of an alpaca mix from Green Gables Alpaca, which is on Prince Edward Island. We were there in 2020. It's 230 grams though, which feels excessive. 402 yards. So this is definitely more, but alpaca is quite heavy. So it's definitely more worsted. I think I'd have to go up a needle size for this. If I wanted to do that, and I'm going to try and keep my needles to a minimum, just packing wise. I may take an interchangeable set. I haven't decided yet. These are all things that are still racing through my head. You don't need to watch me do a hamster wheel impression while I'm sitting here trying to talk to you. Another one I grabbed out of my stash is 118 grams, 2-ply. It's a mystery fiber. It's in apple greens and blues. And if you remember the hand spun I showed you last time, it was a chain plied version of this, but they came from 2 different places. I'm not quite sure where this came from. It says mystery, so I'm not sure. But I thought that would be fun. It's a DK weight for the most part. There's a little bit, you know, it's hand spun, so it's a bit thick and thin. The other option is this beautiful 60% Polworth, 40% Tussa silk from Good Vibrations in St. John. In 2020, they did a mystery fiber subscription, and I signed up. This is 470 yards of a 3-ply at 136 grams. So this is probably more sport weight, so I'd have to go down a needle size from the pattern, but boy, would that be pretty. So that's where I started with my simple things. And then I went down a rabbit hole of, I was in my stash and little part balls of mohair were jumping out of my stash at me. So I'm going to be squinting again. The sun's come back out. Apologies. So then I started thinking, ooh, mohair and fingering equal DK. And you're only looking at 220 to 250 yards for the pattern as it's written. Now you can make it bigger. I'll take my micro scale and I'll weigh as I go. But I had, if you remember, my Stockholm slipover back fall of 2022, I do believe. it was using this gray Shibui Silk Cloud. I have a 25 gram skein left and this little part bit. So this is 300 yards, 300 meters in this 25 grams. And then I weighed this and now I can't remember, but they're the same dye lot. I bought them together. So it would be it would give the same vibe as my Stockholm Slipover. And this is yarn I got years ago. This was Deep Stash. I had 2 skeins of it, and it's a single, and you can see it's very thick and very thick and thin. And it is, oh look at me being all clever with my tag stuck in there. Fondant Fiber, who I don't believe dyes anymore, from the UK. This is Slub Single. It's a blend of lamb's wool, silk, and linen in the raspberry colorway. So I know this combination works together because I love my Slipover. And I have enough yardage to hold these double to do a simple thing, scarfy, shawly thing. So that's where I started. I'll show you where I went after that, because then I realized, look at all these leftover mohair bits that aren't really big enough to do anything but hats. And as I think I've told you before, my family are not big hat wearers. My son loves his winter hats that I've knit him, but he's like, Mom, I now have like 3 of them. I only have 1 head. So, you know, I love him that he wears them, but he's not really into wearing different ones. So then I found, this jumped out at my feet. I don't know if you're going to be able to get, this is Wicked from Sweet Skein of Mine in her silk mohair yarn. And I tried knitting with this already. This is this weird little ball. This was a second from Turtle Pearl that I got. It's got to be 7 or 8 years ago. I went out to Turtle Pearl one day to pick up an order, and she had a table full of one-offs, you know, some were seconds, some were just bases that she didn't normally, anyway, they were just experiments, I guess. So I've got this. So it's this hot pink with this kind of citrony yellowy green in there. And I thought, ooh, whoops, hang on. I have a little ball of mohair and another bigger mohair. And I weighed this out as well, and the yardage would give me enough to do a simple thing, and I think held double with this. How fun would that be? It's not going to be subtle. It'll be gifted to somebody who loves color, but I think I'm going to love knitting it. I think this is going to be my airport cast on. So we're flying out of Halifax, Nova Scotia, which is 2.5 hours away. My husband will drive. So I've got 2.5 hours in the car, probably 2 hours at the airport, a 6-hour flight. Yes, please. So I'm going to, yeah, this is, I think I've now talked myself into it. This is going to be cast on at dark 30, probably 5 o'clock in the morning, next Sunday morning when we're driving to the airport. And I have to resist. I want to cast it on now, but I need to put it away and save it for vacation knitting. So those 2 were the first 2 that I looked at, and then I saw this. So I've just got, sorry for the crinkles, I've just got some undyed mohair that I've used in various things, and this is, whoop, this is an undyed base from Deborah Yarn Indulgences. She just brought some in, and I asked if I could have a couple that were undyed for various things. And then a skein of her Indulgent Silky, I do believe. Yes, Indulgent Silky. So it's 50% merino and 50% silk, non-superwash base in the colorway Caramel. Shove that back in there. This has been caked up for ages. I had caked this up because I was going to cast on something with it, and it was just, I think it was something lacy, and it was just too busy with these kind of silvery caramel cream notes. I thought with this cream undyed mohair for the scarfy shawly thing would be beautiful. Really subtle, exactly the opposite of the last one. So I have 3 options with the mohair. Do I take all of them? That's just silly, isn't it? So this is where the rubber's going to hit the road on my traveling packing. I have to be sensible. Maybe I will cast one of them on this week just to scratch the itch. I guess, and make sure it works, that I'm getting gauge. I'm going to talk myself into casting one on, but not the Fun Bright one. I think the Fun Bright one is going to be my airplane, long day traveling knitting with some socks, of course. But this one, I might treat myself to a new cast on tonight. I deserve it. There. After I've edited and uploaded and all the stuff, maybe this will be my treat this afternoon. So it started off with travel knitting and it's now turned into now knitting. But that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like I said, I still need to find some stuff in my stash. I've got so much in my stash to throw a pattern on, just a nice variegator, lightly speckled, something kind of fun. Like I said, just for evenings or outs and abouts that don't require a lot of concentration, but I can still be engaged with people, but it's not just plain vanilla round and round. That'll probably go on Magic Loop. My little crossbody bag, like I did in New York, it'll just be on the little 9-inch circ, so I can just pick up and put a round or two in if we're standing in a queue somewhere, or waiting for a meal, or on a train or a bus or whatever. So that's travel knitting, dream knitting. Oh my goodness, I just looked at the time. Nope, not saying anything about it. We're going to have a quick design chat before we move on. My Dune socks, we're having a green theme today. My Dune socks were for sale the first week. It actually ended up being 8 days. All the proceeds were donated to Crossroads for Women here in Moncton, New Brunswick. We donated $560 and I made that donation. Thank you so much for spreading the word, for your purchases, for your loves, for your likes, for your shares. I appreciate every single bit. This will be the last time you see the Dune Grass socks for a while. Yeah, thank you. I don't have anything on my needles for design right now just because of where I'm at in travel and whatnot. The other thing that's going to be happening is Hexie Diamond socks that are in 52 weeks of socks. I get the rights back to that pattern on August 31st. So I have been busy writing it up to be my format for a digital download. It will be for sale when I get back from my England trip. I don't know what my Wi-Fi internet access is going to be able to do a pattern launch while I'm away out of country. So I'm treating that, I'm basically not rewriting the pattern. It's just Lina has a specific format, of course, for print publication. Whereas my digital format, so I'm just putting in all of the Hexie Diamond, I'm just transferring it over into my template for my digital format. And so I've been working on that for the last week or so when I have a minute. So that's going to be coming probably, I get back from England on the 12th. Jet lag, work. Jet lag, work. I'm anticipating the 3rd week of September. That pattern will be available as an individual download through my Ravelry store, and we will chat about that, because after I jet lag, work, I'm going to be here having a chat with you about what knitting I did take with me, what knitting I got accomplished while I was away, what I bought while I was away. Yeah. I have done 0 spinning. I wrote that in my book, no spinning, because it just didn't happen this 3 weeks. Not quite sure why, but it didn't. So, all right, page 1 of notes is done. Let's flip over. As I said earlier, the only yarn that I purchased is for gifts for people I'm going to be meeting in the UK, hopefully. There's some that I know I'm meeting up with at different yarn shows, and there's a couple of maybes, so I don't want to jinx it by saying anything out loud. I got a couple lovely skeins from La Violette, Yarn Gift and Go, fluff, mohair probably, from Manon. And I've placed an order from Turtle Pearl, and she's going to drop that off to me next week. I always seem to forget that Emily lives locally to me as well, and I do love her yarn, so I'm going to hopefully knit those self-stripers while I'm away and have to purchase some more. We had a giveaway on the last podcast, so I'm going to announce the winner. So this is for the Lotus Lake pattern, very kindly gifted to me by Anina from Annie UT Knits. And I had asked anybody who was, I'm looking at this side because that's where I'm going to put the picture, but you guys are over here. Wine. So I'll put a picture up of me and my Lotus Lake, Anina and hers. This is a fingering weight. I did it in a linen bamboo blend, but any summer fiber will be beautiful. And I drew the winner this morning. I had asked you to use the word lake in your comments, so I used YouTube comment picker, and every comment that had the word lake in it, I believe there was 120 entries, and the winner is Sandra Crowley, C-R-O-L-E-Y. It'll be up on the screen here. Congratulations, Sandra. If you want to, I'm doing it again. Hello. If you would like to reach out to me, down below through Ravelry or by email, nancy@knitsiphappy.com. It'll be linked below. Preferably not Instagram, because sometimes those messages in Instagram can get lost. So message me through Ravelry or email and I will get that pattern over to you right away. Happy knitting and congratulations. And when I was at La Violette, Manon very kindly, it was before, just as the Dune Grass socks were releasing, and there had been some people in the shop buying this yarn to knit their Dune Grass socks in, and we just thought it was perfect. So she gifted a skein of this Fleece Artist cottage sock yarn to the podcast. So let's give you the details. This is dyed in Halifax, Nova Scotia. It's 80% merino, 20% nylon. This is one of their National Parks of Canada colorways, and this is Greenwich Dunes Park, I believe. Yes, it is. Greenwich Dunes in Prince Edward Island. So doesn't that look beachy and dune grassy and all of that? So we are going to be giving this away this episode, and I'm going to gift you any pattern. It would be great with dune grass, but if you've already bought dune grass or don't want to knit the dune grass socks, so you can have any of my patterns. So for this skein of yarn and any one of my sock patterns, there are now 14 to choose from, soon to be 15 with Hexie Diamond. Please use the word summer in your comment, any way you like. I'm heading away on my summer holidays. What have you done this summer? What have you knit this summer? How's your weather been this summer? Any way you can use summer in the comment. Doesn't have to be clever. Doesn't bother me at all. You can say, hey Nancy, summer. That's all I need. Thank you for being here. Gorgeous skein of yarn will be coming to one of you lovely folks in late September. By the time I get home and podcast and do the draw and get it in the mail to you, it will be flat packed. I will send it anywhere in the world, but it will not be tracked. It'll be vacuum sealed in an envelope and shipped that way. Have I said everything? Oh, watch for spammers. If anybody, I will not comment. I will not respond to you in the comments below. If anybody answers your comment and says that you've won, it's spam. Report it or ignore it. I will only announce the winner on the next podcast. So that will be episode 24. I will announce the winner for this beautiful skein of Fleece Artist yarn, very kindly donated by Manon at La Violette Yarn Gift & Co. Thank you, my friend. Okay, so that's fundamentally it for the yarny content. I've got some questions. I asked on Instagram yesterday if anybody had any questions, and I got a handful. One of them I'm going to delay until I get back. One of them was from the Knitting Chick asking how I customize my sweaters. That's a much longer conversation, so I have added that to my notes to deal with in September or October. So not ignoring you, I will get to it. If you are only here for the yarny chat and didn't want for the regular chit chat that is now coming and a little bit of car show footage at the end, then I will say goodbye to you and thank you for being here. If you're hanging around for the chat, here we go. Let's deal with the questions first. So Marie from Old Time Knits was very cheeky and asked when I'm going to be doing a DK sock pattern. I have one DK sock pattern, Marie, and I don't know. There may be one coming in the fall. I'm not sure. We'll see. We'll see where the road takes me. I'm not doing it on purpose. I'd like a DK sock. I just like a fingering sock better. I know you don't. Wendy asked my favorite needles and my preferred method for knitting socks. Preferred needles, I love Hiya Steels, and I love the ChiaoGoo mini twists and the ChiaoGoo 9-inch circulars. So I do occasionally venture into double points. That's how I learned to knit socks, but I just don't find the enjoyment as much in my double points. So 9-inch circulars for me are simple slip stitch patterns. I can't do anything, I've mentioned this before probably, I can't do anything too detailed. I can't be doing a whole lot of heavy lace like knit 3 togethers and all of that with the 9-inch circulars with that little teeny tiny short needle. I don't have the leverage. The way I hold it, I can't get up and over. So something simple like my Mind the Gaps, I'm doing the slip stitch socks, just slipping the stitch. They're perfect on 9-inch, and my Vacation vanilla socks will be done on the 9-inch just because they're super easy to just go around and round and round, and because, like I said, that needle tip is here to here, and there's not a lot of leverage to be doing things. And it's just the way I knit. A lot of other people can do all kinds of stitches on the 9-inch. I can't. So 9-inch for simpler patterns. For the most part, I'm using Magic Loop. And either, like I said, with the Hiya Steels, I love the join. The cable is a little kinky, but it's a nice stiff cable, which I like. And I also like the ChiaoGoo mini twists with the really fine cable. Are great for kind of digging in there and doing the nice lace stitches or the fun different twisted stitches without a cable needle that I like to do. I had a question from another Marie asking how I add yarn in the middle of a project. If it's a blanket or something like that, I just will hold the yarn double and knit the two ends together as I go. If I can spit splice it, if it's a garment, I will definitely spit splice it. If I can do neither of those things in a garment, I just drop the tail. I've just realized I've forgotten something. Oh, I'm lying about the knitting content. Hold please. I'm going to finish what I'm saying first and I'll come back to it. I just drop the tail of the old yarn and start knitting with the new yarn, and then deal with the tension issues when I weave the end in together. So I'll end up with two tails, and then I'll just weave them in opposite directions so they cover and cross the gap, and give it a little tug to even up my tension, and then I'm good to go. Socks, sometimes I'll do the weave and Steven method if I'm doing change on socks at a cuff or a toe, just again so I can weave in as I go instead of having to weave them in at the end. So I think that's all the methods. So I'm lying on the knitting content. So if you've already left, I apologize. I've not been truthful. You will recognize this probably. It's on a very small circular at the moment. This is my Salty Air Tee. I have been wearing it, but the neckline has really stretched. I think it's a combination. This yarn is very drapey, and especially at this loose gauge, I should have used a much smaller needle for my ribbing. So I decided last night, I'll put a picture here, I put a needle through the stitches and I snipped off the neckband. It was a little tricky to do because the ribbing, you're supposed to have one plain round and then you start doing increases and then you start doing short rows. And I didn't want to get into those increases and short rows and lose stitches and have it be garbage. So I picked up in the ribbing on the first row of the ribbing. which was challenging when I was trying to get my stitches back on the needles oriented correctly. But this is where I'm at. I have picked up the stitches all the way around. I cut off the neckband, and there was some little threads and stuff in there. So I have picked it up. The ribbing on this was done in a 3.5 millimeter. I picked up the stitches on a 2.75 millimeter. I did one round on 2.75 millimeter. I switched to 3 millimeter. I decreased 10 stitches, and now I'm doing knit 1, purl 1 ribbing on a 3 millimeter needle, and I'm going to bind off quite tightly. I might even bind off on a 2.75. But what I'm going to do, because I'm completely off-pieced here, I'm just kind of going rogue trying to get this to fit better for me. I'm going to do about another 3 rounds of the ribbing, and then I'm going to put it on a larger needle so I can try it on. Right now, the only 3 millimeter circular that I had is a 12 inch. So that's not getting over my head. But what made me realize I'd forgotten it is when I joined the yarn. I don't know if I'll be able to show it because I'm on such a small circular circumference needle. Yeah. So I've got the 2 tails here of where I've joined, and they will just sit there, and then when it comes to weaving in, the one that's on the right, I'll weave to the left, and the one that's on the left, I'll weave to the right, so it'll cover up any gap that there is. But that's what the back side of it looks like now that I've picked up. So I think I'm pretty happy with it. I said I wore this to work yesterday, and then we went out for lunch, and I was constantly twitching and fidgeting with the neckline because I can feel it dropping way down my back, and I didn't want that. This is the kind of fit I like. It's not tight, but it's not sliding around, moving around. I put this shirt on and it stays put. This one is moving a lot, and it's not filling me with joy. And my plan is to take the black dress that I wear this with and this top with me to England in case I need something not as casual as my my jeans and tops that I'm going to be taking. So this had to be tackled, and I had almost a full ball left after finishing Samantha's tank. So this is where I'm at on this. I will wear it on the next podcast in September, and we'll see how I did. I may even put some information on Instagram about it when I get it done this week. But this is on the list for this week because I want to take it with me to England. Apologies for the insert of knitting, but it's better than cutting and editing it in later, because we know last time, goodness, I'm sorry about that last episode. My phone was full, and yeah, it just said it just wouldn't record anymore, and I couldn't figure out why, and then I had to delete a whole bunch of stuff, and then it was still cutting me off. Anyway, technical problems. So what I've done this week is I've gone through and I've emptied my camera of pretty much anything. I've made sure everything was uploaded to my Google account, my cloud account, and then I went into my cloud account and I cleared up all of the excessive stuff in there as well. You know, downloads of things for work, screenshots of documents from taxes 8 years ago, you know, silly things like that that I don't need anymore, and I don't need it on there. So I have cleared my cloud storage and I've cleared up my camera. So for England, here's a question for you guys. Do you want, I'm going to be taking footage there at the yarn shows, of course. Do you just want yarn footage, or do you want us bumbling around in York and Greenwich and Oxford and wherever, Edinburgh, just general scenery, what we got up to? I will be doing a vlog probably when I get back. I can't imagine I will have time to edit and upload and stuff there unless I do little short ones. Thoughts? I'm open to suggestions. It's either going to be one big one when I get back of everything, or maybe one that's just yarny and one that's tourist, or combined, or I might throw some touristy ones up separately. I'm open to suggestions and opinions of any kind. Yeah. I want it to be separate from the knitting podcast per se. That way, if you're not interested in the yarn shows or what we got up to, then you don't have to watch it. I feel putting it in the podcast kind of forces you to go to chapters and move along. So it will definitely be separate. It's just a matter of, is it just yarn shows and yarn content, or would you like to see some of what we see while we're there? Answers on a postcard down below. The last question I had was from Sue, and she asked how I met my husband, how I met Brad. So Brad and I just had our 31st wedding anniversary. We've been together for 33 years. He was in the Navy when I met him, and I met him through mutual friends. My girlfriend's fiance at the time had joined the military, and Brad and him were in basic training together. And they clicked instantly and realized he wanted Brad to be part of his wedding party. I was also part of the wedding party. I was in Ontario. Brad was in Ontario on a course, so I thought it'd be fun to get us together to meet. So we did, and disliked each other on sight. The second time we met, we did not dislike each other on sight. And yeah, that was 1990, and we've been attached, firmly attached ever since. Yeah, that's how we met. Military, slight hiccups along the way. He ended up getting deployed to the Persian Gulf War not long after we met. So he was gone for 10 months. You know, it's Navy life. There's no life like it. I don't miss those days. I missed him terribly when he was away all the time. I think that's why we like to spend so much time together now, is because we've had a lot of years where we spent a lot of time apart. And I enjoy his company. He's my best friend. He's the most supportive yarn husband. He is coming with me to Newbury to the Southern Wool Show. Actually, I have found him a fun place just to hang out for the morning, a car cafe place not far from the race course. So he's going to be, you know, in simulators and drinking extra strong coffee and talking cars, hopefully, with some guys, or just watching cars at this, it's called Podium Place in Newbury. So he is going to be there on the Saturday, the morning of the Southern Wool Show, Saturday, September 2nd. I'm going to be there. I would like to be there most of the day. I know there are other podcasters that are going to be there to meet up. There are so many vendors there I want to check out and say hello to and shop from. And then the following Saturday, September 9th, I'm going to be at the Scottish Yarn Festival in Perth. We're not sure what Brad is doing that day. He will probably be wandering around the town waiting for the pubs to open, and then fall into a pub and have a beer or two waiting for me. I will not be there as long because this was kind of a secondary. I wasn't expecting to do 2 shows, but he said to me, "You have to go, Nance. It's kind of a once-in-a-lifetime thing," and he's not wrong. We're staying about 45 minutes away from Perth, so it's a quick train ride, I think, maybe bus. There's a lot of strikes happening in the UK right now on their transits, trains mostly, so we may have to be a little flexible around that. Yes, so England, Scotland is coming up fast. We leave in a week. Actually, a week from now we'll be in the air. If you're coming to either of those shows, Southern Wool Show in Newbury or the Scottish Yarn Festival in Perth, please come and say hello. Message me on Instagram if you don't see me, because if I'm there, I'd love to meet up. I'm going to try. I'm hoping there's good Wi-Fi on there, because traveling internationally, of course. Anyway, that's a whole other thing I've been dealing with this week, trying to figure out how to get data, etc. So we're doing a SIM card switch on my husband. You probably don't need to know this. I think I'm just going to double check my notes, because I haven't really looked at them a lot and they have blown around a little bit. So short of that question, I'm going to answer later about customizing. I'll try and put together a more coherent plan. I've talked a lot about my customization in bits and pieces. I'm going to try and put it together all in one place so that I can refer back to it in future podcasts if anybody asks. I really do think that's it. What I have coming up for you at the end, we had a lovely car show in a community called Memramcook. It's an Acadian community. In New Brunswick, we are the only bilingual province in Canada. We speak both French and English here interchangeably, sometimes both at the same time. We call it Fringlish or Shiak. You can throw an English word or a French word in either language, and generally people can still understand you and will answer you the same way. So it's an Acadian, beautiful Acadian community. There is a lovely car show there on the long weekend every year, so I have taken a little bit of footage. Manon and I met up there, and I don't even think we chatted a lot. So did our husbands. I don't know if we actually sat and knit together. I don't think we did. But it was a beautiful day. Lots of shade at that. There's lots of trees and shade, so it's a beautiful spot. We had a lovely day. So I've taken some footage of some of my favorite cars that I saw there, and we'll wrap up the podcast with that and a little plinky plonky music. Thank you for sticking around for the rabbitiness, chattiness that was today. I will blame vacation brain because I'm now trying to figure out what I got to get done this week. I've got lists of my lists. I've got a master list and then subsequent lists. I got to start pre-packing to figure out how much yarn I should really be taking. Seriously, I'm going to be buying yarn on the 2nd. Does anybody know if is there a yarn winding station at Southern Wool Show? Because I think Brad's yarn husband status, I think he'd probably refuse to sit there with his hands out like this for me to hand wind a ball. I think that might be pushing my luck. So I'm going to wrap up. I still have a little bit of wine. That'll help me tidy up. I'll sip that while I'm tidying up. Thank you so much for being here and sticking around till the end. Here comes the sun again. I'm going to get a little squinty. Happy knitting, my friends. Happy sipping. I will see you on the other side of my vacation. You can follow along on Instagram for clips and tidbits that we're doing. If not, I will see you towards the end of September. Cheers.